Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. Hey, ACT. That's what we do here. Mainline Executive Coaching. We are the coaches, and we've got several coaches with us today. We are excited. We're so thrilled that they've joined us today. And we are all about helping you, the executive, the aspiring executive, that person that wants not only to have the title, on the door and all that kind of stuff of I've got this leadership position, but more importantly, that heartfelt person, that leader that really is engaged and cares about the people that he or she is leading and wants to bring out the best in them. That's the action that great, healthy leaders do. ACT is also about and cultural transformation. So let me go around the room here and introduce everybody. I've got my partner with us here, Rich Barron. Great guy, great background, exciting guy to work with, exciting coach. We've also got the couple here, Christy and John Hope. Exciting, dynamic leaders in their abilities to train and bring you up and bring you up to speed in terms of what you want to become, what you want to do with your leadership opportunities and position. We also have Ronnie Shoemaker, who's been with us before, a great man, great heartfelt fellow that just wants to give and give a lot. He's a tremendous man in terms of his insight and understanding about people. Then we've also got Jeremy, again, another terrific executive coach. So we've got a lot of great people here today. What we are going to be talking about today, and we'll go around the room several times talking about this, is a particular kind of leader. And this leader is called a relationship leader. And you see these people, these are the people that are very heartfelt and very caring. They somehow just seem to have this magical ability to connect with people, get them to open up and start talking and just sharing all sorts of things. And sometimes they are seen as incredibly valuable gems in an organization because they just have this ability to make it happen with people, make them feel safe, make them feel valued, make them feel like they've got some real worth there. And in some other organizations, they feel like, why do people have to feel so doggone much? What is all this ookie gookie, touchy feely stuff got to go on? We got business to do here. So on one hand, they can be great heroes or heroines, or they can be like, well, there we go again. I can't believe we're going down that road. So let's get started on this. All right. So who would like to start? Let's start, Rich. Would you open this up? What do you know about this helper, this relationship leader person?
Well, first off, I want to say welcome to episode number 40. So this is kind of a milestone for us. So excited that everybody could join, but a little bit about the helper. It's the functions of empathy and altruism. They are by far the most caring, the most loving of all of the personality types. They have very strong feelings towards helping others and going out of the way, to do good for those, serving others. That's really the functions of a helper, and that's if they're a mature helper. They understand, their feelings. They understand who they are. That's what they become. Is very loving, very personable, very caring, and they go out of their way to do anything they can to help.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Who here knows somebody that fits that profile? That person that is not just low level kind of person like secretaries sometimes are, and they're people that just kind of at that level, but somebody who's been a strong relationship leader, somebody that others look to when there's times of crisis, when there's times of upset, when people are just not feeling, you can go to that person and he or she is going to be able to get things worked out and ironed out. Do you know anybody like that?
Michael, we were talking earlier, personally, I have to give it some more deep thought, but publicly, and we talked about it earlier, Nancy Reagan seems to fit the definition of a helper leader. Very empathetic, very aware, very available, strong supporting. If you go back to the times when President Reagan was in office, and even as he progressed through the later part of his life, she was there, very empathetic socially and very, very empathetic personally, always being there available to her husband and the nation, if you go back to thinking about the time that he served as president. So that would be one lady that I would think of immediately.
Yeah, she was fantastic. Fantastic role model for so many people. Classy, down to earth, heartfelt, honest, just this good person that emanated goodness and, this feeling of love and welcoming. I would agree with that. Anyone else that you can think of in your life, or maybe even from just looking at life?
Michael, this is John Hope. What came to mind as you asked the question is our Rotary Club. So we're here in Nashville, third largest Rotary Club in the world. So a lot of members, and I can think of 3 distinct female personalities that when you come in the door, they're already trying to connect you with other people that you may not have known. They are the ones that constantly bring new upcoming guests or potential members to Rotary, and they plug them into the other people, into other committees, and are a big part of their orientation. And if you have any kind of a problem, they just throw themselves at it. And if they don't know the answer, they know somebody who knows the answer. And again, Rotary is a service organization. So these 3 particular ladies come to mind in my little world here when you asked, and I will not divulge their names, but they are incredibly good people.
Yeah, and talented. When you take a look at their abilities to make those connections, and they have that ability to see, it's almost like it's a very strange thing. I'm going to kind of reveal myself a little bit here in terms of my own masculinity, man stuff. I've always been very interested in how my wife can go into a group of other women, and they're all talking at the same time. I have no idea how they understand each other, what's going on. And yet later on, I will ask her, so you're all talking at the same time. Do you get anything out of that? Can you tell me what you guys are actually talking about? And she can go through detail. Well, so-and-so was telling me about this, and this child over here, and da-da-da. They are getting it all on these wavelengths, and I don't get it. But that's what that is. They have another wavelength that they operate on, that they pick up all this stuff and are able to process it through this prism of relationships. Let me real quickly, just started watching a new series. I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. Anybody ever watch Unit 1? I think it's called Unit 1.
No.
It's great. It's about these special forces that go into these different countries and pull off these incredible, these incredible operations. I mean, it's exciting. It's dynamic. It's very masculine. These guys have just go out there and just get stuff done. And then at home, they've got the wives. And the wives have their own kind of world. One of those women in that world, she is married to the guy who's kind of in charge. And it's a black couple. He's a big dynamic guy. And then she's a very dynamic woman. She's that person. She has that ability to go into situations of relationship where there's people hurting, when people are just jacked up with emotion, where they just are beside themselves, where they're sabotaging themselves. And she has that ability to go in and accept them, to work with them and get their heads turned around and just process stuff to keep them moving on as these wives of these tremendous soldiers and warriors. I suggest you watch it. Folks, if you've never seen that, go watch it. She does an amazing job in portraying that kind of a person. What else do we know about these helper relationship leaders?
Now, I can tell you this, that mature twos are fundamentally very caring, but immature twos, the ones who kind of go down a different path, have a hidden agenda. I'm going to do this for you, but I'm going to expect something in return. And it may not be vocalized, it may not be, readily apparent, but they're going to expect that, and they're going to make you know they expect that. That's one of the things about immature twos, and also a very high level for self-deception. Not being able to really comprehend who they are, they deceive themselves. Well, we talked about this. We talked about this before.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, I don't know. Let me have someone else answer that. Let's have Ronnie answer that.
So I read a book a few years ago called Leadership and Self-Deception. Yeah. And the bottom line of that book, and I recommend it for anybody that is struggling with leadership and self-deception, is I found out I'm not nearly as important as I thought I was. Meaning I had myself up on a pedestal because I felt like I deserved to be there. But in theory, I was not as high as I wanted to be because my ego came into play. And so some of the immaturity of a helper leader is that same thing. I want to be recognized for being more than who I am. So I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to either be truly empathetic or feign empathy. But at the end, I want recognized. I want thanked. I want somebody to come up. I'm not going to say that, but the people I treat I treat them the way they do because I want that success. I want to feel good about myself. And a true helper leader isn't worried about themselves. They're worried about their team, their stakeholders, their clients, their customers. Immature helper is all about him or herself in the long run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So when you really take a look at the dynamics of that, what that is, if you go back to the old thing of Stephen Covey of setting up win-wins, right? You got to set up win-wins. What this helper leader, relationship leader can do, what their tendency to do is to set other people up to win. That's what they do. They help others. They don't want to be in the limelight. They don't want to be the center of attention. So they're very good at assisting others, fulfilling their needs to get them so that they are successful. That's good. Yep. That's good. However, what they fail to do is this, and what you're talking about, both of you, is they don't ask for what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Therein lies the problem. The other side of that coin is they don't say no when they should be saying, no, this is too much for me. This is not good for me. I really don't want to do that. So they tend to overgive and they tend not to ask for the support. That, of course, is going to create relationships of resentment. That's what it actually creates in terms of relationships of resentment, because there's a lot of abandonment, there's a lot of rejection, there's a whole lot of jazz that goes on with those individuals. So going back to what you're talking about here, Rich, healthy relationship leaders will ask for what they want. They will be upfront, even though it's hard for them, it's difficult for them. They'll also say, no, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to go down that direction, which means for them, they got to deal with some things about, rejecting people or neglecting people or abandoning people. That's kind of hard stuff. So they got to learn how to be very value oriented here. So the problem here is this: they get themselves in traps because they are such givers. And all those of you who are helpers out there, relationship leaders, you want to help so much. Your desire to make connections and assist other people, you want to do that so much that you leave yourself out of the equation. You leave yourself behind. Yep. And you expect other people to mind read you and give you see, you have the ability in an interesting way to mind read other people, meaning you can intuit what's going on with them. You can see what they're struggling with. You can see where they're hurt. You pick all that stuff up. Hey, you helpers, you relationship leaders, if you haven't got this yet, most people don't have that kind of antennae. They don't have that radar. Don't expect them to. That's your particular gift. So don't expect them to perform and help the way that you do. You need to ask. You need to back off of that and give yourself room and take care of yourself. That's what it really comes down to. So in some ways, Rich, it looks like they're being selfish.
Right.
It looks that way. But if every one of these particular leadership styles we're talking about is this, that leader will perform when they're healthy in very healthy ways. Ironically, when they are unhealthy, they'll perform exactly the opposite to their nature. That's what you'll see. They will be the opposite of who they are. And that's kind of difficult to unwind. Okay, let's wrap this up. We're last couple of minutes here. What are you getting out of this? What's the thing that you want to share? Each one of you want to share about your understanding of what a relationship leader is. Let's start with Christy. You've been pretty quiet. What do you want to share about what you're getting out of relationship leaders?
Well, I guess the main thing that I find interesting about all of these is every single profile. If you are mature, it's fantastic. And if you're immature, you're going to not only hurt yourself, but hurt those around you. And you're going to end up self-destructing. So I actually am unfortunately, I'm not real mature in the helper area. And I see much of this coming out in me in that I do tend to give and give and give and give. And then I burn myself out because I am not someone that's very good at saying no. And I'm not very good at asking for what I need. I just assume that everyone will just guess, I guess. But but at the same time, you get self gratitude. You feel good when you're giving, but it's one of those things in everything. You just have to be, you do have to become self-aware. You need to understand where you're strong, where you're not strong, where you need to grow, where you've got gaps. Because in every different type, there's greatness about it, but there can also be pain. And so it's just understanding yourself and where you need to be, so that you can be the best person, not only for you, yourself, your business, but those around you, your family, your significant others. Because if you're not the best person you can be, you're not going to be good for anybody else. Excellent.
That's great. Thank you so much. John, what's your takeaway from all this? What are you getting out of it?
We have done a number of leadership workshops, and this Enneagram, the MLEI, is really the focus of the first day. And Chris and I are kind of surprised in that as we started doing this, the helper trait was more predominant than several of the other ones. And so we've had to kind of learn this particular trait. In terms of our coaching methodology, understanding that they're givers and they're givers and they're givers, you kind of have to let that wash over you as a coach. And then on the other side of that, start to address the fact that they do need to be taking some things back as well. And this is a candidate for burnout. If they give and give and give without any mindfulness or limits to that kind of emotion, again, they're going to burn out. And a burnt out leader is not a leader at all, because they're not capable of leading. Yeah. So we've been paying more attention to this particular trait because of the challenge that it is for us to do our follow-on coaching.
Good. That's excellent. Great observations. Thank you, John. Ronnie, what's your takeaway? What did you get out of this?
So I take it the helper trait, leadership trait, is one that they love to create relationships, but they need to be mature enough to understand that it's a two-way relationship. It's just not about the helper. So if you have the right expectations of what that relationship is and not looking for a personal satisfaction at the end, it's a great way to build professional and personal relationships. But if you're the immature helper leader, at the end of the journey, your feelings may be hurt because you're not getting the recognition or the reciprocation from the other side of the relationship. And instead of growing that relationship, you can really blow that relationship up. The leader walks away and the other people on the other side are going, what did I do wrong? I thought this was really good, but because exactly what Rich said earlier, if I as a leader don't acknowledge at the beginning of the relationship what I'm looking for, you walk away and everybody else is going, what the heck's going on? So it's honesty. It's not just the empathy, but it's the honesty in creating that relationship and communicating with the other party, whether it's at work or at home, what the expectations are, so that everybody is knowledgeable of where the journey is going, and not one-sided is the way I look at it.
All right. Thank you. That's very good, Ronnie. Appreciate that. Jeremy, you popped in. Finally, you made it. We were worried about you.
I did.
Well, what did you get out of this conversation?
Good. Two things, and two very surprising things. First of all, I'm realizing that the best leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with, work under, work beside, work for, as clients or colleagues, they were mature helpers, and they didn't do things for you. They, in fact, frustrate the living daylights out of me a lot of times, because they'd answer all my questions with a question. And so they really would put that back on me. But in the end, it was the most incredibly helpful thing they could have said, because there was new learning involved in that for me. The second takeaway, and I agree with what John specifically was talking about earlier about the intricacies of the helper trait. I work with a small consortium from time to time, and we did MLAs for all four of us and shared them as a group. And there isn't a helper in the bunch. And so I would also say that having teams that aren't well-rounded, that don't have, maturity, and all the different types of leadership can be problematic too. And it's not that we're not working well as a group. They're high performers and doing well, but it's just interesting. Once I really saw the readout and charted out all of our maturity scores as well as our empirical numbers from the MLEI. So those two things resonated pretty strongly. And I always learn something from each of you guys and gals when we do these calls. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You betcha. Thank you. Just for if you're joining us and you wonder, what is this MLEI thing? What is that all about? Is this code for something? It stands for Matone Leadership Enneagram Inventory. It's a marvelous tool. If you are a leader and you feel a little lost or maybe insecure, or feel like maybe I'm in that poser, imposter kind of thing, and I really got to figure this out before somebody finds out, I don't really know all that I know. Contact one of these folks, and we'll have all their information listed at the end of this. When you go watch the podcast, it'll be there. Identify one of these people and say, I kind of relate to that particular coach. I really like him. Ask for the MLEI. They'll give it to you for free. They will give you a free coaching session, and they will unpack it with you so that you get a better clarity about who are you fundamentally as a leader. What is your pathway to develop your greatest leadership abilities? What's your pathway to just fall apart and just fall into stress and tension, all that kind of stuff to avoid? They'll give you some marvelous insights that you will get nowhere else. All right. With that said, thank you all. Appreciate you being here. It's great to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
You betcha.
Thank you, everybody.
All righty. Hey, once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. 40th episode of Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. Thank you, Christy and John, Ronnie and Jeremy. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And so leave us a message. We have a new service. It's called podandbox.com at Mainline Executive Coaching, ACT. You can go on there and leave us a live message. You can tell us whatever you want to tell us. And we're going to play that on the next podcast. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to address that. So once again, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great day, and take care. We'll see you again next time.